Hello and welcome back to An Old Man Watches, where today I'm going to be talking about this year's box office bomb, Borderlands, which hit theatres on August 9th and flopped so hard it's going to be released on streaming platforms only 3 weeks later. And the film begins with a long expository voiceover. This is the first sign of problems, in my opinion. Um, which has lots of detail in it. But the important point is that on the planet Pandora, there's a hidden vault full of super powerful alien technology. Everyone wants to find that vault and get the power, so the planet has been overrun with all kinds of mercenaries, hoodlums, and bad guys for so long that it's now basically a toxic wasteland. Oh, and there's some prophecy about a daughter of the aliens who will unlock the power of the vault. The film then introduces us to Tiny Tina, a young woman who is being held in a cell for not clearly specified reasons, but we're probably supposed to draw a line between the expositionary about the prophecy and her and make our own conclusions. And Tina is rescued from said cell by a mercenary named Roland, also for not very clearly specified reasons. Roland shoots his way past several guards, but then a masked berserker smashes his way into the corridor. Fortunately, this turns out to be a friendly masked berserker, and the three escape the orbital facility where Tina was held and head down to the surface of Pandora. Smash cut to a different planet where we meet Lilith, a red haired bounty hunter and the provider of all of that voiceover exposition. Lilith is originally from Pandora, but she hates the planet and has no desire to go back, at least not until the CEO of the powerful Atlas Corporation offers her a huge reward to rescue his daughter Tina from the mercenary who has kidnapped her. And if that all sounds a little bit sus, it should. Lilith does like money though, so she accepts. Of course, once she gets to the planet, Lilith quickly realizes that Tina has no desire to be quote unquote rescued by her quote unquote father, and that in truth the young woman is a genetically engineered being whom Atlas hopes can find and open the vault for him. So Lilith teams up with Tina, Roland, and the Berserker, as well as her pseudo stepmom and an irritating robot named Claptrap, to find the vault and get its goodies before Atlas can. Shenanigans, of course, ensue. So Borderlands is based on the computer game franchise of the same name. There have been four of those games, the most recent of which came out in 2019. So the timing of this film's release, a good 5 years later, might seem a little strange. The explanation? Well, actually, the film was shot in 2021, so not that long after the most recent game, but it then limped along in post production for almost 3 years, including 2 weeks of reshoots in January 2023. So a long delay between initial filming and final release is rarely a good sign, and the fact that the writer of the original screenplay withdrew his name from the production is also a worrying indication of what was going to happen with this movie. So it was perhaps no surprise when the movie opened to overwhelmingly negative reviews. It eventually limped to a 10% fresh rating on Rotten Tomatoes, at least as of the time I wrote this video, which is actually better than it looked like it was going to be at first. And it has cratered financially. Worldwide box office is around 22 million on a production budget of about 5 times that figure. And the few people who did see it weren't that impressed. That includes me. With a cinema score giving it an audience rating of D plus on an A plus to F scale. So, and I can't argue with the overall negative reception. Borderlands not only isn't a good movie, it doesn't even manage to be the interesting kind of bad. So, where does the film go wrong? Well, as you might imagine, I have some thoughts about that. Now, many video game movies have struggled with critics and audiences, and I think there are some good foundational reasons for that. There are fundamental differences between the two forms of media, causing challenges in adaptation, and Borderlands, like many of its predecessors, struggles to overcome those challenges. First and most important is the simple fact that games are interactive experience where actually playing the game is supposed to be the fun part. The story, whether good, bad, or indifferent, or entirely absent, is often merely a pretext to justify the playing. The Borderlands franchise is very much in this model. Yes, the first game uses the Find the Vault as its pretext, the second game uses Stop the Villain, but they're just a launchpad for justifying the player roaming around dozens of locations on hundreds of side quests, killing thousands of enemies with the game's myriad of randomly generated guns. You play Borderlands to shoot things, and it just so happens that at the end of the game, those things include the bad guy. Now, a movie, of course, isn't interactive. You don't get to shoot the things, you just watch people on screen do it. And while action scenes can be exciting in and of themselves, it definitely helps if we care about why the action scene is happening. Again, so you need more story. The efforts of the Borderlands film on this front are underwhelming. They establish that Atlas is a bad person and that stopping him is there for a good idea, but that's about it. Now, of course, there is another way to make an audience invest in a scene, give them characters they care about. Now, video games again present a challenge because protagonists are often merely ciphers. They just exist to embody the player. Sonic and Mario don't have any real personality, and neither, frankly, do the player characters in the Borderlands games. They're just a pair of arms holding guns and occasionally making wisecracks as they slaughter enemies, which is probably why the film centers itself mostly around characters who have had significant non player roles in the franchise. Two of them have never been playable at all, and while the other four have all been playable, three of them have made non playable appearances in which their characters were much more fully defined. Which sounds like a smart play, except that several of the film versions don't match their in game characters very well, which begs the question of why use them. So, yeah, in short, there are challenges in adapting games to movies, and Borderlands doesn't cope with those challenges very well. And it gets worse because, frankly, the film just doesn't cope very well with being a movie of any kind, let alone a video game adaptation. There are some baffling structural decisions made here, for one thing. As an example, shortly after Lilith arrives on Pandora, we get a scene where she meets several scavenger kids and asks them if they've seen Roland and Tina. They give her a lead, which she follows. Now, that all sounds all right on the surface, so what's the problem? Well, as it happens, there are three of them. First, this entire scene is narrated in voiceover by Lilith. We see visuals of her showing Tina's pictures of kids, but none of the dialogue. Instead, we just have her telling, I spoke to these kids and they gave me a lead. Which is that's great movie, but given me you are literally showing me that happen, why not just show me that happen? Why voice over it? Were the kids that bad? I don't know. Second, that lead doesn't actually take Lilith to Roland and Tina. It just takes her to a place where she bumps into the robot Claptrap, and then he helps her locate them. So the conversation with the kids was complete filler. It's something like 2 minutes that tells us nothing new about the characters, and from which, from a plot perspective, we could simply have skipped by having Lilith meet Claptrap straight away. And 2 minutes might not sound like much, but in a movie with six protagonists and only 100 minutes of runtime, 10 of which are credits, it's a baffling waste. Third problem. Right after Claptrap gives the Lilith the need she needs, there's a scene where she rescues a bunch of kids from some bandits. She shoots the bad guys, and the kids run away. Now, it's not quite the same waste of runtime because it does have a narrative purpose. Lilith gets the bandit's vehicle, which she needs. But it does beg questions like, if Atlas wants Lilith to find Tina, and he does, why didn't he give her a vehicle? And hey, if you have a scene where your character rescues some kids and the scene where she talks to some kids, why not connect those in some way so they form a shared narrative? And it feels like this movie is actually like going from A to B to C rather than just kind of throwing stuff at the screen and hoping it works. But you know what? As a fan of the anarchic, satirical action comedy that was laced through the Borderlands games, I could have forgiven the movie for changing up some of its characters and having a flimsy or badly structured plot. Just give me lots of bombastic, over the top action, a thoroughly hateable villain, and a blizzard of jokes of varying levels of maturity, along with lots of colourful post apocalyptic science fiction settings and monsters. And I probably would have given the film a pass and been like, well, it's not good, but it is fun. Alas, I can't say that because the film never really feels like it gets into the kind of high gear, volume turned up to 11 nuttiness it needs to in order to capture that anarchic sense of fun from the games. Now, I don't blame the on screen cast for this. They're a talented bunch of people who do the best they can with what they're given, but what they're given isn't very good. The script and the direction is not great here. And possibly there was also some studio meddling. I wouldn't be surprised if the film's lack of oomph and edginess comes from a conscious decision to rein in the more absurd and over the top elements of the game, some which do admittedly veer into deliberate bad taste in order to make, they're like, oh no, don't go too far, rein it in. We want this to be, okay for the wider audience. The problem with that, of course, is that pushing the boundaries elements are a core part of what made the games, especially Borderlands 2, so popular. Would it be possible to jettison them and still have a wildly over the top, exciting action film? Maybe. Do they manage it in this movie? Definitely not. Instead, we get what is a surprisingly drab and anemic action comedy. A film's that not so much bad as something far worse, bland. Next time, a much older film, so old in fact that it makes reference to the World War. It's the 1936 horror melodrama Revolt of the Zombies. I do watch some trash. But that is next time. Until then, thanks for watching. I hope you've enjoyed it. And if you've seen Borderlands, let me know what you thought of it.